Welcome to the Video Professor's Computer Learning Series on CD-ROM. This is the same great lesson that is found on our videotapes. This CD lesson window will always play on top of any application, so you can follow along step by step to learn the program. We have packed this CD with information, and sometimes move at a pace that is faster than you'll be able to follow along with. To help you with this, we have designed the CD to work just like a VCR. You can pause, rewind, or fast forward the CD to learn each part just by clicking the appropriate buttons. From the Table of Contents menu, you can select or review any part of this lesson instantly. For your convenience, a Video Professor icon has been added to your desktop. To view this or future lessons, simply put the CD in your drive and click on this icon to start that lesson. Now, to get started, simply click on the menu item you want to learn. For best results, we suggest you start at the first item and work your way through to the end. And welcome to my second lesson on Excel 97, one of the most popular and powerful spreadsheet programs in home and business use today. In my introduction lesson on this program, we learned basic skills such as entering and editing labels, creating and copying formulas, saving a workbook to disk, formatting spreadsheet elements, and printing. This lesson will build on those skills, so it is important that you know how to do them. If you don't, I suggest you see my introductory lesson for Excel 97. In this lesson, we will learn how to create charts and graphs from spreadsheet data. We'll learn how to write formulas with relative and absolute cell addresses. In addition to those skills, we'll set up cost and revenue variables that will help make business decisions easier. And at the end of the lesson, we'll create a summary report complete with spreadsheets, graphs, and text. Before we start the lesson, I'd like to introduce my student assistant, Suzanne. Just follow along with her and you'll be using the graphing features of this program in no time at all. Later in this lesson, we'll save our work to the floppy disk used in our first lesson together. So make sure you have it on hand for this lesson. Everyone, at this point, I'm going to assume you have your computer turned on with Excel 97 active on screen. If you haven't done this, pause the lesson and open the program. Before we enter any numbers, labels, or formulas into this worksheet, let's be sure everyone has the same tools displayed and essentially the same screen view. Open the View menu and verify that there is a check mark next to the Formula Bar and Status Bar options. If you must toggle on either of the options, reopen the View menu afterwards. Now open the Toolbar submenu. We need the Standard, Formatting, and Chart toolbars active for this lesson. Suzanne, you have the first two toggled on, so simply click on the Chart toolbar option to activate it. When the Chart toolbar appears on screen, it may appear floating on the workspace area. If so, double-click on the Chart toolbar's title bar to anchor it below the menu bar. Now that we have the same toolbars on screen, let's set a few other visual tools. Suzanne, double-click on the current zoom percentage showing in the zoom box, and then enter 95%. Press your Enter key. Now that we have the same worksheet magnification, pull down the Tools menu and then click on the Options command. Within this dialog box, click on the View tab if it isn't already active. On this tab, make sure you have the same options selected within the Show, Comments, Objects, and Windows Options areas as Suzanne. Once they are marked, click on OK. One more thing. Everyone make sure the Excel application window and the workbook window are maximized. With that done, we should all have the same tools on screen. Now, let's tackle a real-life business scenario. Suzanne, did you know that Excel can perform several very important tasks? The first is the spreadsheet number manipulation with formulas that we learned in the introductory lesson. The second is producing charts and graphs, which we'll see in this lesson. And the third is database operations, which will be featured in the third lesson. All these tasks base their operations on data within a spreadsheet. So the first thing we need to do is build a spreadsheet with appropriate data. Once that is done, we'll have a basis for our charts and graphs. To help illustrate this connection, we'll tackle a common business problem, deciding whether or not to add another product into an existing product line. Our business will be a curbside lemonade stand. Its current product mix consists of lemonade and iced tea. The owner of this small business venture has noticed that coffee and espresso seem to be the current rage among her target market. So she is thinking about adding these two new products to her basic product line of lemonade and iced tea. The problem she faces is a good candidate for what-if analysis. Setting up a spreadsheet with appropriate sales and cost variables, then entering sets of projected numbers to test if a business venture will be profitable. For our analysis of Lemonade Plus, we'll keep things simple by using projected sales to decide if the new products might be profitable in the long run. We won't deal with startup and fixed cost, such as the price of a new espresso machine. The first step we'll take is to enter a brief description of this spreadsheet's purpose. Suzanne in cell A1 enter Video Professor-Lesson 2. It is a good idea to enter some spreadsheet documentation for every project. It can tell us what the worksheet is about and help distinguish like worksheets from each other. When you finish, press the down arrow to move down to cell A2. We want the entry in this cell to record the current date. To do this, we'll enter the Today function. It automatically updates the date each time the file is opened. Suzanne, type an equal sign. This performs two functions. It tells Excel that we want to enter a formula, and it activates the function box, which assists you in entering worksheet functions. Click on its drop-down arrow. The function box displays the last 10 functions entered in Excel. Suzanne has the Today function on her list. If she were to double-click on its title, that function would be entered in cell A2. Not everyone will have this function on his or her list, so click on the More Functions title at the bottom of the list. This brings the Paste function dialog box on screen. It gives us access to the more than 200 functions that come with Excel. The functions are grouped in categories which are displayed in the left window. When you select a category, its functions are displayed in the right window. The function we are looking for is in the Date and Time category. Click on it. Now search the right window to find the Today function. The functions are listed in alphabetical order. Once it is found, click on it. Now click on the OK button. The Today function now appears on the edit line. It reads equal sign, the word Today, and then an open and close parentheses. Clicking on the OK button also brought the function palette on screen. It allows us to modify the function. We don't need to do that here, so click on the OK button to finish entering the Today function. Viewers, note that the date entered in your spreadsheet is different from Suzanne's. It is different because the Today function uses your computer's internal system date to write its product in cell A2. That completes our worksheet documentation. Now let's enter some labels. Click in cell B3 and then enter in all caps the words Lemonade Plus. Click on the Confirm button and then on the bold icon. It's the one with the big B on it. In cell B4, type the number 1, add a space, and then type in all caps the letters Q, T, R, and a period. When you finish, press Enter. Select cell B4 again and then click and drag its fill handle to the right. Release it when you reach the right edge of cell E4. As we saw in our first Excel lesson, the fill handle creates a series for us based on the data within the active cell. Okay, Suzanne, let's list the products in column A. Click on cell A5 and type Lemonade, our mainstay product at the lemonade stand. When you finish, press the down arrow or the Enter key and enter iced tea in cell A6. And when you finish, press Enter or the down arrow to move to cell A7. Within this cell, enter coffee, one of the proposed new products. Move down to cell A8 and enter espresso, the other proposed product. Good. We now have labels for 4 products and appropriate quarter headings. We also need labels for each product and quarter. Enter the word total in cells A9 and F4. Now let's enter our project's raw data. Our lemonade entrepreneur has done exhaustive market research to come up with these projections, so all we need to do next is fill in the numbers that she developed. Let's enter the projected number of gallons that our entrepreneur thinks she can sell. In the first quarter, enter from top to bottom 10, 5, 15, 5. In the second quarter, 30, 15, 15, 10. Third quarter, 50, 25, 5, 15. And fourth quarter, 25, 20, 10, 25. If you need more time to enter these numbers, pause the lesson. That takes care of our raw data. Now let's write some formulas to get the totals by quarter and by product. Select cell B9, Suzanne. We want the total for the first quarter sales to appear here. Click on the AutoSum icon on the standard toolbar. It has a large sigma sign on it. This produces the same sum function that we manually created in our first Excel lesson. Press your Enter key or click on the Confirm button to complete the function. And here is our answer, 35 gallons. Suzanne used the fill handle to copy the sum formula into cells C9 to E9. Now that we have totals for each quarter, let's repeat the process so we have totals for each product. Select cell F5 and then click on the AutoSum icon. AutoSum didn't detect any numerical data in the cell above the active cell, so it immediately sought data in the cells to the left of the function formula. Pretty clever. This is what we want, so press Enter to accept this formula. According to Helga's projected sales figures, she expects to sell 115 gallons of lemonade in the upcoming year. Suzanne used the fill handle to copy the sum formula in the remaining total cells. The projected total for each product has been filled in. Well, Suzanne, it's time to save this work. Afterward, we'll build some graphs based on our findings. Suzanne, click on the Save icon. It has a picture of a floppy disk on it. We haven't named this file yet, so we are given the Save As dialog box. Before we use any of its command boxes, insert the floppy disk from the introductory lesson into Drive A. Once again, select that drive letter in the Save In entry box. When the Video Professor Lessons folder appears in the Files and Folders area, double-click on it. Once done, enter Lemonade Plus as the file name. Verify that file type as a Microsoft Excel workbook. And when everything is set, click on the Save button. Suzanne, for our analysis of Lemonade Plus, will compile data on one workbook sheet, develop the graphs on another, and then create a summary page on a third. We already have 3 sheets available to us, so let's label each to reflect its purpose. Double-click on the Sheet 1 tab, and then type in the word Data. When you finish, press Enter. We're going to put the charts on the second page, so double-click on the Sheet 2 tab and enter Charts as this sheet's title. Press Enter. Now double-click on the third sheet tab and enter Summary as its title. When you finish, click on the Data tab and move back to that sheet. Now that we have all the projected sales data and totals for each product and quarter, we can analyze this information to draw comparisons and get an overall view of sales trends. And one of the best ways to do this is to turn this information into simple-to-read charts. The data sheet has all the numbers for projected sales data and totals for each product and quarter. So we can analyze this information to draw comparisons and get an overall view of sales trends. However, if we make a chart of this information, we may be able to recognize sales trends or patterns that we wouldn't intuitively see in the data page numbers. The first step in creating a chart is to select the data in which we want the chart based on. Suzanne, use your mouse to select the cell range of cell A4 to E8. We'll leave out the totals for this first chart. When you finish, locate the Chart Wizard icon. It's 5 icons from the right side of the standard toolbar and has a small column chart on it. Click on it. The Chart Wizard walks us step by step through creating our charts. There are 4 major steps. The first step asks us to select a chart type. The default is a column chart, but as you can see here, we have many chart categories to choose from. Each standard category has a subset of charts. which are displayed in the example window on the right side of the Chart Wizard box. We can choose from column, bar, and pie charts, as well as scatter charts and area charts. When selecting a chart type, you must consider how it will present your data. It isn't simply a matter of selecting any chart type. You need to select a type whose axis clearly represents the data selected on the worksheet. For our set of data, a column chart is appropriate because it compares values across categories. In the chart type window, click on that choice. We have 7 types of column charts to choose from. Each presents our data slightly different from the next. If you're new to charting, these choices may not make sense to you. Fortunately, Excel has included a feature that can help you decipher the differences. Suzanne makes sure the top left column chart type is selected. Then click and hold on the View Sample button. The Chart Types area now shows us how our data will be charted using the current chart type. Not bad. The simple column chart clearly demonstrates how each product fares in each quarter. Let's see how the 3D version of this chart looks. Release your mouse button and then click on the chart type that appears in the middle of the first column. Once you have selected it, click on the View Sample button again. This chart displays our data in the same fashion as the first chart type, with a little added depth. Let's keep it and move on to the Chart Wizard's second step. Click on the button labeled Next. The second wizard step gives us another chance to identify the range of cells that the chart will display. This comes in handy if you didn't select any data before clicking on the Chart Wizard button, or if you want to change the size of the current data range. The chart that the wizard is suggesting is based on Excel's assumption that the data series we want charted is coming from a rows-oriented worksheet range.
Professor, what is a data series?
A data series is the information that's represented on the chart by means of bars, columns, pie slice, and so on. In the column chart, we can see that the Chart Wizard is using the product labels as its data series, whereas the quarter labels are shown on the x-axis. Clicking on the columns option tells the Chart Wizard to use the quarter labels as the chart's data series and the product labels as its x-axis. I think the information we want to convey is best charted using the product label as its data series. So click on the Row option and then click on the Next button. Step 3 of the Chart Wizard allows us to choose additional charting options. These options are found on 6 different tabs. We also want our chart to stand on its own and be clearly understandable. So let's add a title and some other documentation elements to help clearly explain the contents of the chart. The Title tab allows us to specify a chart title and labels for each axis. Click inside the Chart Title entry box and type in Quarterly Projections. The preview shows us how the new elements affect the chart's appearance. I think the product labels tell the story on the x-axis, so we'll skip giving the chart an additional label there. The y-axis label entry is inoperable at this time because we selected a 3D chart. We can, however, add a label on the z-axis. Tab down to the z-axis entry box. Our selected data represents projected sales in gallons sold, so the logical choice here would be gallons. Type that in, Suzanne. With that done, let's check out some of this step's other options. We can use the options on the Axis tab to specify whether the chart displays the x-axis, the z-axis, or both. It also enables us to suppress other information. The Grid Line tab gives us control over the grid lines that appear on the chart. Right now we have major grid lines on the z-axis. They appear at every 5-gallon interval. Clicking on the Minor Grid Lines options under the z-axis entry area gives us grid lines at every gallon's interval. It also gives our 3D chart added depth, which should make reading the data series easier. On the Legend tab, you can dictate if and where the legend appears. We can have the legend appear on the bottom, corner, top, right, or left of the chart. The Data Labels tab enables us to display the view of a data point net to its symbol on the chart, as well as show the labels for each. Suzanne, click on the Show Value option. The preview now shows a percentage on each data point. This may come in handy at times, but at this time I don't believe it really adds to the chart. Toggle on the None command to remove the percentage labels. The last tab gives us the option of displaying the data table our chart is based on. Suzanne, let's move on to step 4, chart location. Click on the Next button. On this tab, we can specify whether we want to create a new sheet to embed the chart in or place it in an existing sheet. We'll do the latter. Click on the drop-down arrow attached to the As Object in box. Once it opens, click on the chart sheet we titled earlier. That takes care of step 4, the last one in the Chart Wizard process. So click on the Finish button to complete the process. And there's our chart. Nice work, Suzanne. The column chart makes it very easy to compare products in each quarter, and we can also see something of the trends between quarters. We can see that lemonade is the mainstay of this little business. But look at the growth in the espresso sales. I think that new product might really take off. You'll notice that our chart elements have an outline around them. This is called the chart area, and it allows us to move and resize the chart. Suzanne, move your mouse pointer into the blank space at the upper left-hand corner of the chart area. Now, while holding your mouse button down, drag the four-headed arrow pointer up and left towards cell A1. When the upper left corner of the selection border, that's the perforated line you see here, reaches the middle of cell A1, release your mouse button. With that done, let's make the chart a little bigger. It's a little crowded. Do you see the little square at the lower right corner of the chart area border? It's called a selection handle and allows us to resize the chart area. Move the mouse pointer onto the selection handle. When it changes into a two-sided arrow, click and drag the handle down and right to cell I-15. Excel scales the chart and its elements to match the new area.
Professor, can I change a chart's elements after it is created?
Yes, you can. Each chart element can be manipulated separately from the other. We saw that in the Chart Wizard, and it can be done after the chart is on the workbook sheet. Our column chart has 4 main elements: the legend, the plot area, the chart title, and the Z-axis label. Some of these elements are made up of smaller elements, which can be manipulated as well. Suzanne, slowly move the pointer over some of the elements. As you do, flags pop up to inform you what each element is. Some are rather obvious, while others, like the plot area's wall and floor elements, aren't. Clicking once on an element selects it. Double-clicking on an element not only selects the chart element, but it also opens a formatting dialog related specifically to that chart's element's attributes. Let's check this out. Double-click on the gallons label. This opens the Format Axis Title dialog box. Its options allow us to add borders and shading to the selected title. We also have control over the title's font and size, as well as any attributes such as italics and bold facing. Suzanne, click on the Alignment tab. We're going to change the selected title's orientation. At the bottom of the orientation area, there is a degree box. Click on its degree arrow until a -90 appears. Once done, click on the OK button. Back on the chart area, the title has taken on the orientation format that we applied. You'll also notice that Excel adjusted the plot area to take advantage of the title's new format. Not only can we format chart elements, we can also move and resize them. An element must be selected before doing either operation. Since the gallons title is still selected, it can be moved to a new location within the chart area. All you need to do is click and drag. There are more formats that we can add to our chart, but I think this one tells the story fine just as it is. Click on the File Save icon to save our changes to disk. That first chart was pretty straightforward, Suzanne. Now we'll make a pie chart that illustrates the proportionate sales for each product. Click on the Data tab, Suzanne. We need some different data for our pie chart. The 2 ranges of data that we want to chart are in 2 different areas. First, mark the range A5 to A8 to capture the product names. Now press and hold the Control key and mark the range F5 to F8. You'll remember from our first Excel lesson that the Control key allows you to highlight cells that aren't contiguous. Now that the labels and the data range are marked, Suzanne, release the keys, and then click on the Chart Wizard icon. Once again, our first step is to select a chart type. I believe a pie chart will represent our data well, so click on that chart type within the left window. And once again, we are given a number of variations to choose from. We'll stick with a simple pie chart. Click on the Next button. We don't need to change the data range to be charted, so click on the Next button to move us to step 3. Suzanne, let's quickly add a title to this chart so we can remember what it represents. Select the Chart Title entry box, and then enter the words Projected Total Sales. Now take a look at the preview. The chart title and the legend give us enough information to see that lemonade is by far projected to be the best seller. Espresso seems to have the edge over coffee, but the pie slices are too close in size to make a solid judgment. Let's add some data labels so we can see exactly how much each product is projected to affect total sales. Click on the Data Labels tab. Now toggle on the Show Label and Percent option, and then look at the preview. The percentage label helps clarify things, but I think the labels are excessive since we already have a legend. Let's keep the percentages. Toggle on the Show Percentage option, and then click on the Next button. We want the chart on the Charts sheet, so open the As Objects In list and click on the Charts option, and then click on the Finish button.
Professor, I think something went wrong. My pie chart is on top of my column chart.
Nothing's wrong, Suzanne. All we need to do is drag the chart to another location. Click and drag the chart area box down until the upper left-hand corner of the outline appears in cell A18. When you have the chart in place, release your mouse button and then scroll the workbook sheet up so we can see all of the chart. Let's add a subtitle to this chart. Select the chart title by clicking on it. Move the I bar after the S in sales and click. Now press your Enter key and type in parentheses the word gallons. When you finish, block the subtitle. We're going to manipulate a few of its formats. Pull down the Format menu and then click on its first option. When the Format Chart Title box opens, click on the Italics command that appears in the Font Style option window. And then click on the 9-point option appearing in the Font Size window. Once those are selected, click on the OK button. You know, Suzanne, the pie chart plot area looks a little small compared to the other chart elements. Let's adjust things a little bit. Click on the legend and then drag it to the left about a half column. Now do the same thing with the plot area.
Professor, what happened?
Excel thought you wanted to separate the pie slices. We'll have to use another method to select the pie. First, click on the Undo icon to reverse the last action. Now open the Chart Objects box. It's located on the left side of the chart toolbar. Click on the Plot Area option. This selects the pie chart plot area so you can move and resize it. Suzanne used the upper right-hand corner selection handle to resize the plot area so it's roughly the same size as a legend. Now let's move the plot area to the left so it's relatively the same distance from the outline as the legend is. Once you finish, click on the Save icon to save these changes to disk. The chart clearly shows that more gallons of lemonade will be sold than any other product. It also shows us that the projected sales for espresso are greater than those for coffee. It doesn't, however, give us any information on the revenues and costs associated with those projected sales. That's what we will look at next. We're ready to calculate income and expense. So far, we've looked at the quantity of products sold, but not at actual profit from sales. To do that, we must incorporate our sales figures with information dealing with revenues and product costs. These types of variables allow us to do various what-if scenarios. For this project, we'll compare the profit potential of selling lemonade versus espresso. We'll limit our analysis to these two products, lemonade because it has the largest proposed volume of sales, and espresso because it's the proposed new product with the best potential sales. Suzanne, click on the Data tab. We're going to build another set of calculations on this worksheet, so let's add some documentation to the first set of numbers. right-click on the number 4 row header. When the shortcut menu opens, click on the Insert command.
Professor, will inserting a row here mess up my charts?
A reasonable question, Suzanne, but no. The charts are adjusted appropriately to keep their proper data ranges. Click in cell B4 and type Projected Sales in Gallons. Now let's set up several cost and revenue variables, and then write formulas to translate the projected gallons sold into dollars and cents. The variables are cost per gallon, servings per gallon, and sales price per serving. The process is something like this. Each gallon of lemonade costs a certain amount to produce. From a gallon of lemonade, we get a certain number of cups. Each cup sells for a certain amount of money. When we subtract the cost from the sales revenue, the answer is gross profit. There are some additional steps in the real-life equation, but this simplified version will do for our lesson. Click in cell A13 and enter the label Variables. Press your down arrow key and then enter cost per gallon in cell A14. Once done, enter the word servings per gallon in cell A15. And in cell A16, enter price per serving. These are fairly long labels, so we'll put the numbers into column C for lemonade and D for espresso. Let's add those headers next. Click in cell C13 and enter lemonade. Then move to D13 and enter espresso. The cost of producing 1 gallon of lemonade or espresso will vary depending on the quality of ingredients used and other business-related factors. For our project, we'll use predetermined cost for each product. Without using dollar signs, enter the number 5, a decimal, and then 2 zeros in cell C14 for the cost of lemonade. And in cell D14, enter $8.50 for the cost of producing 1 gallon of espresso. You'll notice that the zeros disappear after entering these figures. Don't worry, it is only a formatting problem, one which we'll take care of in just a minute. The next variable is servings per gallon. Now we know that there are 16 measuring cups in a gallon, but a serving cup is a little different. A tall icy lemonade will probably be a little more than 1 measuring cup, so let's say that we can get 12 servings per gallon. Enter that amount in cell C15, Suzanne. Espresso, on the other hand, is served in smaller quantities, so we might get 25 servings per gallon. Enter that number in cell D15. And finally, the price decision. Let's sell the lemonade for $1.50 and the espresso for $2. With that done, use your mouse and the control key to block cells C14 to D14 and cells C16 to D16. When you finish, click on the currency style icon located on the formatting toolbar. Let's make a few other elements within this area stand out. First, click and drag from cell A13 to D13. Now hold down your control key and select cells A14 to A16. When you have those blocked, click on the bold icon. That last formula made a few of our labels too long, so we need to resize a few columns. Click on the column C header, and then click and drag the right column divider to the right until the column is around 10.5 character spaces wide. Do the same thing for column B. With that done, select cells A13 to D16. Now open the Border Options drop-down list. With the palette open, click on the Outline option that appears at the lower right-hand corner. There, that's a bit more like it. The formatting really makes this section stand out. Suzanne, we have the elements for our what-if analysis. Now it's time to combine them. Use the right scroll bar to move row 12 to the top of the screen. We'll set up a simplified income statement showing revenues, expenses, and net income. Start in cell A20, Suzanne, and enter the label Revenues. Below that, in cell A21, enter Expenses. And below that, in A22, enter Net Income. Across the top of this section, starting in cell B19, we'll put the quarter headings again. Type the number 1, a space, and the letters QTR in a period, just as you did in the gallons chart up above. Once done, use the fill handle to fill in the other quarters to cell E19. While that range is still marked, click on the Copy button on the toolbar. Now click on cell F19, and then click on the Paste button. Now let's put some labels above each set. Click in cell B18 and enter Lemonade. And in cell F18, above the second set of quarters, enter the word Espresso. I notice that the net income label in cell A22 runs over into column B, so let's widen the column. Move your pointer onto the column header between A and B. When the cursor turns into a double arrow, click and drag the column divider to the right, just enough so that the line appears after the E in income. Now we know where things should go, so let's write some formulas. The first one is revenues, which will be the number of gallons times the servings per gallon times the price per serving. Suzanne, click in the first quarter lemonade revenues cell B20. Type an equal sign, and then press the page up key. We need to bring the projected first quarter lemonade gallons into view. With that done, type an asterisk. Now click on the cell for servings per gallon of lemonade, C15. Now I want you to add something to the cell address. I'll explain in a minute, but just follow along for now, okay? Press the F4 function key. That adds dollar signs to this cell address in the formula, as you can see on the formula bar's edit line. Type another asterisk, and then click on the cell for price per serving of lemonade, C16. Press the F4 key to add dollar signs to this cell address too.
Professor, I understand the formula structure, but what were those dollar signs for? Do they signify currency?
Those dollar signs don't have anything to do with currency, Suzanne, but they do have a very important job. They tell Excel to treat each cell reference marked by these symbols as an absolute address. Before we go any further, let's look a little closer at this important aspect of creating formulas. Up to this point, we have worked with formulas that use relative cell addresses. So, what is the difference between the two? Well, it is fairly simple. Absolute cell addresses always point to the same cell or cell range, no matter where they may be copied, whereas relative cell addresses change as formulas are copied into new cells. In this formula, we want the first cell for gallons to change as the formula is copied to a new location. So we left it as a relative cell address. Conversely, we want the servings and price per gallon cells to remain constant in our calculations. So we made those cell references absolute. The information in the absolute cells can change, but the formula needs to always point to these specific cells. Suzanne, press your Enter key to finish the formula. Our 10 gallons of lemonade will produce $180 in revenues. Now let's write formulas for first quarter expenses and for net income. And then we can copy the formulas to the other quarters all at once. This will show us how the relative and absolute cell references actually work. First, make sure cell B21 is selected. Type an equal sign and then press the page up key. Now click on cell B6 for the number of gallons of lemonade sold in the first quarter. Type an asterisk and then click on the cell for cost per gallon, C14. Press the F4 key to make this an absolute cell reference. Then press Enter. Great! This lemonade only cost $50, so we'll have a profit. In cell B22, start the formula with an equal sign. This is a simple subtraction formula. Click on B20, the revenues, type a minus sign, and then click on B21. Press Enter. First quarter lemonade profits are $130.
Professor, why didn't I need any absolute cell addresses in the last formula?
We don't want absolute cell addresses in the net income formula because we want this formula to adjust on a quarter-by-quarter basis as it is copied to the other columns. Let's copy this set of formulas to see how the lemonade business looks for the rest of the year. Mark all these formulas for the first quarter by highlighting cells B20 to B22. Now use the fill handle to copy these formulas across into columns C, D, and E. The numbers look pretty good, but can we trust them? Let's check a formula to be sure, and also see how those absolute cell references worked in the copies. Click on D20, Suzanne. We'll check that big third quarter revenue number of $900. In the edit line, we see D6, that's third quarter gallons, times C15, that's cups per gallon, times C16, that's price per cup. Good. It's a reliable formula. The formula's relative cell address that points to the projected gallons of product sold was B6 in the first quarter, and now it's D6 for the third quarter. This cell address adjusted itself to the new location as it was copied. But the two absolute cell addresses still point to the same lemonade servings and price numbers. Suzanne, while keeping your eye on the relative cell address, press your right arrow key. You'll notice that it changed while the other addresses remained the same. Now that we understand the difference between relative and absolute cell addresses, let's enter formulas for espresso. Ready? Start in cell F20 with an equal sign and then page up. Click on B9, the first quarter espresso gallons. Add an asterisk and then click on D15, the servings of espresso per gallon. Press the F4 key to make that cell address absolute. And then type another asterisk. Once done, click on D16 for price per serving. Press the F4 key. Now press Enter. Well, look at that. We only sold half as much espresso as lemonade, but espresso generated more revenues. This looks like a promising line of business, but we still need to see the bottom line. In cell F21, type an equal sign. Now page up and click on cell B9. Type an asterisk and then select D14 for cost. We want it to be an absolute cell address, so press the F4 function key again. Press Enter. The expense for producing espresso is $42.50. We don't need to rebuild the net income formula. It works for lemonade and espresso. Click on cell E22, where the last lemonade net income formula is, and then use the fill handle to copy that into the espresso range, F22 to I22. The projected net income for the first quarter espresso sales is $207.50. Now mark the range F20 to F21, espresso's first quarter revenues and expenses. Then use the fill handle to copy these formulas into columns G, H, and I. Now make column I a little wider. Look at the projected fourth quarter revenues for espresso. $1,250. I'm beginning to understand why coffee shops are popping up on every street corner. Before we get too excited, let's double check the formula. Click on I-20 and then read the edit line. E9 is fourth quarter gallons of espresso. D15 is the servings per gallon. And D16 is the price per serving. We have a good formula. We've got some valuable data here, so click on the Save icon to save these latest entries to disk. Suzanne, let's condense this information a bit. Select the cell range A20 to A22. Right-click your mouse to open the shortcut menu, and then select the Copy command. Now select cell A25, and then use the shortcut menu to select the Paste command. With that done, enter the word lemonade into cell B24, and in cell C24, enter espresso. These are the labels for a summary table. Click in cell B25 and then click on the Auto Sum button. Excel expects us to add columns down, so it pre-fills the formula as B20 : B24. But that's not what we want. So click and drag from B20 to E20 and then press Enter. We've summed up the 4 quarters of the Lemonade projections. Now do the same summing formula for espresso. Click in cell C25 and then click the auto sum icon. Drag from F20 to I20 and then press Enter. Now highlight B25 and C25 and use the fill handle to copy the sum formulas down to expenses and net income. Our annual projection numbers should read down the columns as follows. Lemonade, $2,070, $575, $1,495. And for espresso, $2,750, $467.50, $2,282.50. I think these totals would make a straightforward chart, so let's create one. Block from cell A24 to C27. This includes all the dollar data plus all the necessary labels for the chart. Now click on the Chart Wizard icon. Once again, we are given a list of charts and chart subtypes to choose from. A basic column chart will display our data adequately, but let's check out one of the custom chart types. Click on the Custom Types tab. The chart types on this tab give a slightly different twist on the standard chart types. Some are combinations of chart types, while others are designed to display information in a very specific manner, many of which rely on a person having extensive charting experience. We'll choose one that is relatively simple. Click on the Columns with Depth option. It displays our data series in 3D columns while maintaining a 2D axis. Click on the Next button. Step 2 allows us to verify that the data range matches what we want to chart. Currently, it tells us that the data to be charted is in cells A24 through C27, and that the cells are to remain absolute values. Everything is correct, so click on the Next button. When the Step 3 screen appears, activate the Grid Lines tab. Once the tab is active, toggle on the major and minor grid line options under the category X-axis and value Z-axis options, but toggle off the 2D walls and grid lines option. When you finish, click on the Title tab and then select the Chart Title entry box. Now type in Lemonade versus Espresso as the chart title. When you finish, click on the Next button. We want the chart on the charts sheet, so open the As Objects In list and click on the Charts option, and then click on the Finish button. When the chart appears, move your pointer into the chart area and then click and drag it down to cell A31. Make sure you select an empty chart area, not a chart element. Once the chart is in place, use the vertical scroll bar to bring it to the top of the window.
Professor, why doesn't the chart have a label for expenses?
There simply isn't enough room at this time to display another X-axis label within the current plot area size. There are several ways to remedy this. The easiest is to reformat the X-axis labels. Right-click your mouse on the Revenues label. When the shortcut menu appears, click on the Format Axis option. When the Format Axis box appears, click on the Alignment tab. The label's orientation was automatically set for us by the Chart Wizard. We can, however, override the format. Suzanne, click on the Degrees Decrease Increment arrow once to deactivate the automatic selection. Now click on the Increase Increment arrow one time. We want the orientation at 0%. The X-axis labels will now appear horizontally on the page. This will make the labels easier to read, but it doesn't quite fix our problem. We still won't have enough space to show each label. To correct this, we'll change the label's font size. Click on the Font tab. Double-click on the entry in the font size box, and then enter the number 6. When you finish, click on the OK button. There, we can now see the labels clearly. This chart shows the relationships between revenues, expenses, and net income. So let's take a minute to understand what we're seeing. The left columns represent revenues, that is, the money that is earned from sales. The center is expenses, the money paid out during the course of business. The right column then is net income, the money left over after expenses have been subtracted from revenues. Since our net income is positive, that is profit. The chart clearly demonstrates that net income is several times larger than expenses for both lemonade and espresso. If we were to stack the expense and net income columns together, they would be the same size as those for total revenues. Suzanne, we've seen several types of charts and also developed some behind-the-scenes skills for controlling a chart's appearance. Now let's take a look at the power of this spreadsheet tool for business planning. The spreadsheet and charts right now show a pretty strong net income because expenses are fairly low. But what if there's a sudden rise in the price of coffee beans? Well, we build our spreadsheet to handle changes like this. So let's see how it handles this scenario. We start this what-if process by changing the cost of espresso in the variables section. Move to the data sheet so we can, Suzanne. Before we make changes, let's take another look at espresso's current revenue, expense, and net income numbers. With $2,750 in revenues, minus $467.50 in expenses, we have close to $2,300 in net income. Let's see what happens if the cost doubles. Click in cell D14 and type in $17. Now, while keeping your eye on the espresso expense and net income numbers, press your Enter key. The espresso numbers change instantly. We can see that as the expenses increase, the net income is reduced. Since our total figures are linked to the quarterly figures, they too change to reflect the change in expense. We also have a chart based on these figures, so let's see how it illustrates the changes. Click on the Charts tab to switch sheets, Suzanne. Now look at the revenue and expenses chart. This chart's center bar now shows the espresso expenses as being larger and the net income is down, but we still have positive income. Charts are linked to the data in which they were created, and changes in that data affects the chart and its elements. Changing the espresso expense is a very good example of just how quickly a properly constructed spreadsheet can respond to changing variables. We have everything needed to do other what-if scenarios. We could check the effect of increasing or decreasing the price of each cup of espresso, or change the projected gallons of lemonade sold, or perhaps change the serving size of each product to see how each variable affects cost, revenues, and net profit. For now, I believe you have learned the skills needed to use your spreadsheet for business planning and to create graphs that emphasize key points and relationships in your plan. There's only one thing remaining in this lesson: creating a summary report. Suzanne, let's assemble the key results from Lemonade Plus into a summary report on the summary sheet. Click on it. Click on cell B1 and type in all caps, Lemonade Plus. When you finish, click on the Confirm button. While the title is still selected, change the font size to 16 points and then make it bold. Once done, use your mouse pointer to make a range from cell B1 to G1. Now, pull down the Format menu and select the Cells option. Click on the Alignment tab, and then open the Horizontal Text Alignment list. Once it's open, click on the Center Across Selection option. When you finish, click on the OK button. With that done, let's copy the gallon sales data onto the report. Click on the Data tab. Now press the Page Up key, and then select cells A4 to F10. Once done, use the shortcut menu to copy the range. When you finish, click on the Summary tab. Now select cell B3, and then use the shortcut menu to paste the data into the summary report. With that done, move back to the chart sheet. We're going to place the bar chart that illustrates these figures below the data. Page up until you find the very first chart we created, and then click on it. Use the shortcut menu to copy the sales projections. Click on the Summary tab and then select cell B11. Use the shortcut menu to paste the data. Now use your mouse pointer to center the chart area below the numbers. Page down the summary report, and in cell A27 type, the following is projected income for lemonade and espresso. We could add cost and servings per gallon to our report, but for this lesson we'll keep it simple. Now click on the Data tab to switch sheets, and then block cells A13 to D16. Click on the Copy icon. Then click on the Summary tab. Make sure cell A28 is selected and then paste the copied data. Click on the Data tab and then page down to see the Revenue and Expenses summary. Once those cells are in view, select the cells A24 to C27. When you have that range selected, use the shortcut menu to copy it. The data range poses a problem for copying because the numbers here are the result of formulas that are sums of the quarterly projections just above. We didn't have absolute values to write these formulas. It wasn't necessary. If we were to perform a simple paste of the total formulas into the summary report sheet, their relative cell addresses would change and no longer point to the correct data. However, there are solutions to this problem. Let's check one of them out. Move back to the summary report. Press your down page key to move row 33 to the top of the sheet window. Now select cell A33 and press your right mouse button to open the shortcut menu. We can't use the regular paste command here because of the relative cell addresses in the total formulas. Click on the Paste Special option. Within the Paste Special dialog box, we have control over which elements of the selected data is copied to the new location. For example, we could tell Excel to paste only the values of the copied formulas. The text labels would be pasted as well as the revenue, expense, and net income numbers. The formulas that generate those numbers would be omitted. Instead, let's link the copied information to the original so whenever the revenue, expense, and net income numbers change on the data sheet, they will also change on the summary sheet. Clicking on the Paste Link button at the lower right-hand corner of the dialog box will do this. So click on it. There's our revenues and expenses data, and we have a stowaway 0 in cell A33. Click on that cell and press your Delete key. When you finish, widen column A so we can see all of the net income label. Suzanne selects cell B33 and then look at the edit line. The word data followed by an exclamation point and the cell reference tells us that the data within the cell is linked to cell B24 on the data sheet. If we were to change the data in that cell, it would also affect the data here. You'll notice that the expense and net income cells are also linked to cells on the data sheet. The paste link didn't carry any of the formats with it, so if we want any, we'll have to apply them ourselves. Highlight cells B34 to C36. Now pull down the borders list and select the Outline option. And while those cells are still highlighted, click on the Currency icon. Once done, use your mouse and the Control key to highlight cells B33 and C33. Then, cells A34 to A36. Bold them by clicking on the bold icon. And then widen column A to accommodate the new formats. Let's add another line to call attention to the lemonade and espresso data. First, select cell A38. Now enter the following words. Lemonade Plus sells more gallons of lemonade, but espresso shows a greater profit margin. Below this text, we'll place the chart that illustrates that statement. Click on the Chart tab. Page down and then use the shortcut menu to copy the chart showing comparative revenues and expenses. When you finish, click on the Summary Report tab. Select cell A40 and then use the shortcut menu to paste the chart. It's a bit too far to the left, so drag it over to the right so it's centered under the text. With that last addition, we have finished the data for our summary report. Let's take a quick preview of our results, Suzanne. Click outside the chart area and then click on the Print Preview icon. It is the one with a magnifying glass on top of a piece of paper. The summary sheet looks pretty good. If you need to make any changes, such as moving a chart or adding a line between summary elements, you'll need to go back to the normal view. Click on the Close button. Now let's send the summary report to the printer. Click on the print icon. Within a matter of seconds, you'll have a hard copy of the summary report in your hands. Suzanne, we've come to the end of this lesson, so save your changes. You now have the skills to create a properly constructed spreadsheet for what-if analysis. Good luck on your analysis. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, there is always more you can learn from me, the Video Professor.